Good morning, daughter. I'm going to put out another video on an interesting topic. Now, I've got my notes here in case I forget any particular things that I want to say. So just keep in mind that I think I have it mostly where I can speak it out. But if I have any questions, you'll see me look down and I might even study for a moment or two. But I do want to wish you a good morning. Very proud of you, of course. And anybody else who's joined, these are messages to my daughter regarding spirituality. This one centers around the concept of being hungry. You know, does anybody enjoy being hungry? Yeah, well, you should. Now, part of the Beatitudes says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will be filled." Now, what does that indicate? If someone recognizes that they're poor in spirit, that's the start. That's the beginning of realizing that you are in need of something important, something spiritual food. God imparts in us a physical, mechanical reminder. You know, what do? You don't go throughout the day and say, I just forgot to eat. And your body reminds you. Well, some people do if they're real busy. But you don't do that with your eyes. You don't sit there and say, around 2 in the afternoon, you don't sit there and say, well, I've seen enough. And then, don't see anything for the rest of the day. No. So, in regards to hunger, you have a mechanical stimuli that says, eat. It's proper. God does not imbue that to you in regards to spiritual hunger. He doesn't do that. That has to be developed. It has to be pursued. You must learn to want to pursue it. Give me a moment. Yeah, poor in spirit. Blessed is the poor in spirit because they realize it. Now, in regards to hunger, we're not going to get spiritual, you're not going to get a hunger pang saying, spirituality, you got to go pursue something right now, broccoli or something, in the spiritual concept of it. But if you don't have an appetite for spiritual things, it demonstrates, okay, when it comes to physical bodies, a lot of times doctors will say, how's your appetite? And if you say, very poor, well, that concerns a doctor because in reality, they're concerned about that because a poor appetite often will demonstrate poor health. So if you don't have a normal appetite, there's likely something very wrong. Now, with spiritual, in regards to the spiritual concept, that appetite has to be developed and learned and pursued. Again, if you do have an issue with appetite spiritually, you're spiritually sick. And that will lead to death. So we have to address that, don't we? Okay, so spiritual hunger. Give me one. Spiritual hunger can be misaligned by junk food, spiritual junk food. And how many people really run after things that are really valuable? The scripture says, why do you buy things that are not bread? Why do you get things that don't satisfy? Regarding that, you can spoil your appetite with lousy spiritual food, just like regular people go. They're always eating processed foods. They're always taking in foods that are bad. And it impacts their body. Maybe not that day, but it will impact them. Regarding spiritually, if you chase after things like money, power, prestige, homes, jewelry, clothing, whatever it is, that's junk food. When you watch TV and you see the commercials are saying basically, what you are isn't good enough. You need to buy our product. That's garbage. That's junk food, spiritual junk food. So they get full on that and they don't desire what actually matters, which is to go after righteousness and to pursue spiritual food. Now, when he was at the well with the woman at the well, he was very hungry. The apostles had ran off to get food, physical food, and then he saw the lady and he spoke with her. Go get your husband. She says, I don't have a husband. You spoke correctly, he says, because you have 5. And the man you're with now, you're not married to. And she went, whoops. And she shot off back to town to tell everybody, hey, come see a man who told me everything I've ever done. I thought that was a deep statement. But anyway, daughter, so Jesus was physically hungry. And about that time, when she ran off, the apostles came back with physical food. They had gone off to get it, and they had brought it back to him. And they said, Jesus, here's the food. It's time to eat. He said, I have food you don't know. You have no idea of the food I have. He was spiritually fed by that interaction. That interaction between the woman of the well and him had nourished his cells. He was spiritually fed. This is my theory. I think that he was spiritually fed. I believe that his cells were fed miraculously, though his stomach was still empty. He was fed. And that's why he's able to look at him and say, you don't know what food I have. So the concept is, he was fed. And give me but one moment, daughter. Yeah, so you don't want to buy things that don't satisfy. Okay, we discussed that already. Okay. So, daughter, I say to myself, well, how motivated are we actually us people? How hungry are we for spiritual food? Do we pursue it as if I were to hold, if someone's head was held underwater, how long would they wait, and how much effort would they put into getting their head out of the water? You think they'd wait a week? Oh, next week. That's fine. Wrong. Same thing here. How hungry are we? I would say not very, as a whole. Shackleton you could look him up. He went to the South Pole. He was short 100 days. He was trying to get there. They ran out of provisions. They took horses instead of dogs. The horses died. They tried to get back. They were working on getting back. They had to turn around I think it was 100 miles short or 70 miles short of it. But they had to turn around. Now, upon coming back, they knew that they would barely make it with the food they had if they actually did make it. Well, they did. But what's important to know that I want to tell you, daughter, is that, the men, as they were coming back, were so hungry that they never stopped talking about food. He wrote this in his memoirs. They would talk about feast or certain holidays and celebrations. They always were talking about food. They never stopped. So what that means is they were really motivated. We're to be that motivated. We are to be like that. They never stopped talking. It never left their mind. They never stopped dreaming about it. They never stopped smelling it or the remembrance of it. They longed for that moment when they would be able to eat from the flesh pots or whatever they did. They were hungry, hungry, hungry. And they never stopped talking about it. We have to be at that level of absolute commitment. Special forces, special ops, Green Berets or whatever, they train day and night so that they can be capable of the work that they have to perform day and night. You don't get a person and place them into a combat situation without severe training, and special forces are even the elite of the elite. And they take it very seriously. Let me take a look here. This is spiritual warfare. If we're willing to put that kind of commitment with our best soldiers into physical warfare, we must be ready for spiritual warfare because it's right around the corner. And when the days come, if you are not saturated in this way of thinking and filled, that you're not going to miraculously just be endowed with that when things happen. When bad things happen, you will not necessarily be able or capable of withstanding it. And that's permanent. That's a permanent circumstance, and we need to be fully and completely ready. Shackleton's men never stopped talking about food. We should never stop talking about taking God seriously. With me working with psych patients, my whole attitude is like I've told you, in the morning when I'm going to work, I'm going to work with one particular person for 12 hours. My whole attitude is, how do I serve you today, Lord? How do I serve you today? Now, in regards to the other prayer that I just developed, which is these people that I look after, the reason I can feed them is because I have a reserve that I can impart. So I tell him and I ask him, because I need help. And I'll say, Lord, I'm a shepherd and I take care of your sheep. Please take care of me. So we have to ask the Lord for mercy. And when you're fed and full, when you're full spiritually, you can be generous. You can be kind. You can be merciful. Food is so important. When Jesus raised the little girl from the dead, he said, feed her. When Lazarus came out of the grave, he said, I'm hungry. The Lord wants us full, but he wants us full on the right stuff. He doesn't want us eating pig or squid or vulture or any of those. He wants you to eat the proper food. But once you are spiritually fed, you have the capacity and the ability to be merciful. You see, mercy, give me one moment, daughter. When it comes to mercy, you have to share it. God was first merciful to us. Remember the man who owed 10,000 talents? That's us. And God said, I forgive you of those talents. That means he's taken the debt. And then that same person went out, and one of his other neighbors owed him very, very little. And he took him by the throat and he said, I'll send you to the tormentors for the $15 you owe me. Well, the mercy that he was given for 10,000 talents was withdrawn. And God said, or the master said, oh, you miserable, wicked, wicked man, I forgave you first. And you couldn't forgive your fellow person, your fellow friend, your fellow neighbor? Now I remove that mercy from you, and you will pay you will pay all that you owe to the very penny. So the concept of that, let me see. Okay, we've discussed that. Let's see. Yeah. You can be merciful when you're full. You can be generous when you're rich. You can be generous. If I have an abundance and I'm not a carnal or wicked man, I can share. Bezos and these idiots at Amazon making people run up and down this sidewalk all day. What kind of mercy is that? I mean, they have a mountain of money, but they make their people run. I mean, they should be paying them more. Why not? So the concept is, when you're full, you can be merciful. And to be merciful means you have to forgive. If you don't forgive, unforgiveness is like an acid. It'll erode, it will deteriorate its container. Us, we're the container. If you harbor anger, if you harbor resentment, if you don't find the bright side, if you don't see conflict as opportunity, you're dying slowly, you're eroding, you're rotting. The one thing you do have that God did give you is your body. Now, daughter, I'm just going to take a real quick look. I think I tagged pretty much everything that I wanted to say, but let's make sure. Junk food, right? Woman at the well, we discussed. Okay. I think we're looking pretty good, but let me put on my nifty glasses just to triple check. Another place in the Bible, it says the rivers run into the ocean, but the ocean is never full, So again, that's just what it's saying is, don't chase after things that it's fake food. You eat it and it poisons you. So is it proper to be hungry? Is it good to be starving? Is it good to thirst? If you do, for righteousness, now you're talking. Now you're talking, because you'll pursue it. You'll learn to do good. Isaiah says, or Job says, we have to learn to do good because we know how to do evil. So spiritual food. You chase it. You can't drink milk all the time. Over time, you have to see growth in yourself and you progress to the higher things. That's why I love studying. I love learning because when I'm talking to psych patients that are starving, desperate, in need of encouragement, I'm able to give to them what I've learned. The Lord always, it's the Holy Spirit that does the talking, but that's the best way. So, and I always tell them, hey, this isn't my message. I'm talking to you, but somebody else has given me the words. It's not my message to you. It's another person's message to you. And how can I do that? Because I'm well fed. So, daughter, let's keep in mind, it's not so bad to be hungry. It's not so bad to starve. We should reflect on these things day and night, night and day. We should reflect. So, I just wanted to tell you, honey, it's good to starve. So, if you get hungry, and you get hungrier, is what I'm actually telling you. I know you're a godly woman, but you get hungrier for righteousness, and you pursue it. And you and I can do it together. And we can bring a whole bunch of people with us. All right, daughter, I love you. Bye, honey.